welcome back to my channel. It's Nadia and today we're gonna be doing our November bullet journal setup, and I'm gonna be doing a cozy reading corner theme for this month. I'm gonna be using up the last couple of pages in my A5 notebook from Archer & Olive. I still can't believe the year is coming to an end, but I'm super excited to start a brand new notebook as well. I'm also gonna be using my go-to pens, which is a couple of black pens and also some neutral shades in the Tombow brush pens. I also have a couple of colors that I'm gonna be using from this brand new set of brush pens. This is from the brand called Headthrone that you can find from Amazon. I got this gifted to me from a friend, and if you're interested, I'm gonna link everything in the description down below because this set of brush pens is also a lot more affordable than the Tombow brush pens. I'm also gonna be using a couple of other stationery tools, and now we're ready to get on with our November bullet journal setup. For my cover page of this cozy reading corner theme, I took a lot of inspiration from Amanda Rach Lee's October theme. I know that she also did kind of a cozy reading theme as well, and I got a lot of inspiration for that because I didn't really know if November was considered fall or if it was already considered winter, and so I really wanted to pick a theme that would kind of be able to fit both of those seasons. And whenever I think about this transitional time between fall and winter, I think about staying inside, trying to stay warm, being all cozy, and also just staying inside in general. And so that's kind of how I came about with this reading corner theme for the month of November. I also took a lot of inspiration from something that is called isometric art, and the isometric art is basically a style where you try to create a 3D look in the 2D plane, and you see this a lot with a lot of designs for any buildings, any interior designs, or even just any landscape as well. I've just been so obsessed with this type of art style lately. My Instagram and Pinterest has been filled with all of these types of inspirations, and so I really wanted to include that in my bullet journal, and I also wanted to combine the two themes together and really create this cozy reading corner theme in an isometric style. And I realized that combining these two themes made things so much more complicated than it had to be. I definitely could have made this theme in a lot simpler way and just stick to a 2D typical style, but I was so obsessed with this art style lately, and I was already too invested in the idea to let go of it, so I decided to just stick with it. But definitely drawing everything in 3D was so time consuming. It seemed a lot faster now because I have a lot of the outlines prepared, but when I was trying to create the outlines, I made so many mistakes and I had to keep redoing a lot of the lines. If you are also interested in doing some more 3D effects in your bullet journal or in any of your art pieces in general, I really recommend you to use a ruler because being able to keep the same angles is really important whenever you're trying to create this 3D effect. I find that even if my lines are slightly off just a little bit, it really makes it look really wonky and it doesn't give the same 3D effect. Sometimes if you're looking at your picture and you feel like something is off, just double check your lines. Maybe it could be one of the angles that is wrong, and then just fixing that can make a huge difference in how the 3D effect looks in your drawings. And so for this November cover page, I tried to do an open book in the isometric art style. I tried to draw another bookshelf within the book itself, so it's kind of a little bookception if you want here, and I also decided to turn it into kind of this cozy living room in the middle of the open book as well. And then I also just tried to use the same colors that stick together and kind of give that more cozy vibes for the fall and winter transition. And let me know in the comments down below what season it is for you, and if you also like to match your bullet journal themes to the season of the month as well. So for the colors that I'm choosing for this cover page, I decided to choose a lot of the colors that was already part of the Tombow dual brush pens in the portrait set. And that's one tip that I want to give to you guys is if you're not sure about a color palette, you can definitely just choose the color palette that the brand has already provided to you. So because I already bought the Tombow brush pens that came in a set, I knew that all of these colors are gonna look really nice together, and so I just chose a lot of those colors instead of trying to pick my own color combination. And another tip for you guys is if you don't have a lot of Tombow brush pen colors yourself, you can just layer a lot of the same colors on top of each other to get more of a darker shade so that you can build more of a variety of different colors and different shades even if you're not using a variety of pens. And you'll start to see that when I color the portraits inside the book, I'm actually using the same pen, but I'm just layering it over multiple times to be able to create a darker shade and being able to create a different variation. Now for our quote page, I decided to use this stamp set that I got from Walmart a while back. I was so impressed with these stamps because they were only $2.50, which is such a steal. I've been wanting to get these type of letter stamps, and the ones I see on Amazon are usually $20, but this one was only $2.50, and so I was so happy when I saw that at Walmart. And I really feel like this stamp set goes perfectly with this theme because it reminds me of an old book and having that typewriter font on that book as well. So I thought that it fits really well for my cozy reading corner theme for the month of November. To make everything even more cohesive, I also wanted to choose a quote that was fitting for the theme as well. And I found this quote that says, "I trust the next chapter because I know the author." I really love this quote because not only does it fit with the theme, but it's also a really nice reminder to have for myself. I've been really working on building my self-confidence, and I really do feel like confidence really depends on how much you trust yourself no matter what happens. So it's not so much believing that nothing is ever going to go wrong, but more so believing that even if things does go wrong, that you trust yourself enough to figure it out and that you'll get through it okay. Now moving on to my monthly spread page and my one line a day page, I decided to do the background of a library full of bookcases, and this was actually inspired by a spread that I saw from Journal Away. And even though this spread itself doesn't have a lot of 3D drawings in it, it still took a lot of time for me to prepare just because I decided to color every single part of the page. And so what I decided to do here is I decided to draw some little holes for where the books are going to lie, and then I just colored the rest of the background to kind of fit in as the colors of the bookshelves. And then I decided to use a couple of colors from my brand new Heathrown brush pens and kind of use that to color in the books within the bookshelves. I was actually so excited to finally try my Heathrown brush pens. I'm so in love with all of the beautiful shades in this brush pen set, and so I decided to use the Heathrown brush pens to color the books inside the bookshelves so that I can get a lot of the variety of the different brown tones inside the bookshelves. And to be able to fill in the bookshelves, I just started to draw a couple of rectangles to kind of showcase the number of books in the bookshelves. And it's actually really simple to do if you also want to recreate drawing books in your bullet journal. All you have to do is draw a bunch of rectangles next to each other, and you can also vary the height and the width of each book so you can give it a lot of variety as well. You can also add a lot of variety by adding some details into the books, but because I'm just switching it up with the colors and because I'm actually gonna overlay this with some paper on top after, I'm not even gonna bother with designing the books with some additional details, but I'm gonna vary the heights and the width of the books just to give the page a lot more dimension. And now that we've drawn in all of the books inside the bookshelves, I'm gonna take a couple of shades from my Heathrown brush pens and kind of start coloring the books at random. So the first color that I took was the bronze color, and to give it more variety, I also went and layered some of the colors a couple of times to create a darker shade of this color as well. So as you can see, I'm just coloring random books within the bookshelf, but also making sure that each bookshelf has a bit of this color in it as well. And then the next shade that I'm gonna add is the color called Elderberry, also from the Heathrown brush set, and I'm just gonna color in the books again at random, but making sure that each bookshelf has a bit of this elderberry color as well. I really like the two shades together because I find that the elderberry has more of a reddish maroon undertone to it, but the bronze color is more of a true brown. And then for all of the remaining books that doesn't have any colors, I'm gonna go with a third color, which is in the shade dark brown, and I'm just gonna fill in all of the books that didn't have any color so that now all of the books have some sort of shade to it. And to finish off the look of these bookshelves, I'm also gonna color in the bookshelves itself behind the books. After I created the library background for this spread, I'm gonna take 2 pages of some bullet journal paper that I have and create a little mini booklet that I'm gonna glue onto this spread. And to make the little mini booklet, I just took 2 pages from an old bullet journal, folded that in half, and also stapled it in the middle so that it can open up like a book. I'm also gonna use my paper rounder to round off the pages of the little booklet that I made. I just really love the look of rounded pages, and I just find that it looks so cute, so I decided to do this to my little mini booklet. And after we made our little mini booklet, I'm gonna glue the first page and the last page onto my bullet journal. Now, this was really cute when I had it in mind, but it actually wasn't really practical. And the reason why is that now that I've glued it into my bullet journal, it actually made it really hard for me to flip open to the next page, and even if I forced the page open to the next page, it actually created some wrinkles and folds into my mini booklet, so it wasn't that cute and not that practical. But if you do want to create this mini booklet inside your bullet journal look, I recommend you doing it the way that Amanda Rach Lee did it, by creating some Dutch doors instead of gluing another booklet into your bullet journal. Or if you do decide to glue in another booklet into your bullet journal, just glue it onto one side of your bullet journal instead of gluing it onto both pages like I did here. I think the fact that I glued it onto both pages is what made it really difficult for me to flip open to the next page, and I think that's what caused a lot of the issues that I'm facing here. But anyway, since I already glued the mini booklet into my bullet journal, there wasn't much I could do. If I tried to take it out, it actually ended up ripping the page of my bullet journal, which I didn't want to do. So I'm just gonna stick to it, and then what I'm gonna do is that for the first page of my booklet, I'm gonna use this as my monthly calendar. So here, as you can see, I'm just doing a simple minimalist calendar. And for the pages inside the booklet, I decided to use this as my one-line-a-day pages. And so I'm just gonna write down the days of the month, and because the booklet is a little bit smaller than a typical bullet journal page, I decided to give it more than just one line so that I can still write the same amount as I normally used to. I'm also gonna be using the same brush pen color that I did for the background, and I'm gonna use the other end of the brush pen to create some lines in the one-line-a-day page, just so it doesn't look too empty and just so I can make it feel cohesive with the overall theme. Then I'm gonna do the same exact thing on the other page of the booklet, just so I can have all 30 days for my one line a day for the month of November. Now for my habit tracker page, I also wanted to stick with that isometric reading corner vibe, so I decided to create a bigger version of this isometric living room style. So what I decided to do for my habit tracker is that I decided to draw 2 bookshelves and a calendar on top of the couch where I'm gonna be tracking my habits. I find that for me, tracking 3 to 5 habits at a time is definitely the most effective for me. Whenever I track too much habits at a time, it just ends up making me feel overwhelmed, or it makes me do these habits just because I feel like I have to, instead of doing these habits because I actually want to. And for the month of November, I actually have 3 habits that I really want to track. The first one is going to be exercise, and this is the one that I'm gonna use in the calendar on top of the couch. For this habit, I just want to track whether I have done some exercise or not throughout the day. It doesn't matter how intense or how not intense I am doing the exercise. But on the other hand, for the 2 bookshelves, I want to be able to track some habits where I can kind of color code depending on how much or how little I was playing into that habit. And actually, the 2 things that I really want to track might not necessarily be considered a habit in general, but the first thing that I want to track is how much money that I'm spending. And so I want to be able to easily color code the books depending on how much money that I am spending on each day of the month. And for the bookshelves here, I decided to create 3 rows of books, and each row is gonna have 10 books so that this can correspond to each day of the month. And for the other bookshelf, I actually also want to track my comparison. Now, this is kind of a tricky one because it might not necessarily be a habit, and it's something that is kind of hard to quantify, but I want to be able to track down how much I compare myself to other people. I've been working with a coach recently, and she was actually the one that helped me realize how often I compared myself to other people and just how much I was so used to comparing myself to other people subconsciously. And I know that this is something that I definitely want to reduce or even stop completely. And I know that it's not gonna happen overnight, and I know that it's gonna be a really difficult challenge, but it's definitely something that I notice is starting to weigh me down emotionally. And so I just really want to be able to get to a place where I just don't compare myself to other people. I just feel like my life would be so much better if I didn't let this consume my thoughts. And if you're also into neuroscience, there's actually a popular saying that goes, neurons that fire together wire together. And what this basically means is that every time you think of a certain thought, your neurons will wire a certain way and it becomes easier for you to think that thought again. And that's why you might hear some popular exercises about repeating positive affirmations to yourself, and that's because the more you think about these thoughts, the more that you wire your neurons to wire this way, and it's going to become more and more easier for you to think of these thoughts. Now, on the other hand, it also works if you think some negative thoughts. And so for me personally, it's become such a subconscious thought for me to compare myself to other people or just devaluing my own wins. And so I want to be able to start catching whenever I start to think these thoughts so that I can try to think differently whenever it happens and start rewiring my brain so that these thoughts doesn't become as second nature to my brain. And if you're also someone that is struggling with comparing yourself to other people, I found a really powerful journal prompt that I like to practice whenever I catch myself comparing myself to others. And the journaling prompt that I've been using recently is, how is my ego trying to keep me safe? Now, this is really powerful because when you compare yourself to other people, it's most likely that your ego is the one at play and the one controlling your mind. And if you try to think about it in a different way and try to think why your ego is thinking this way, there might be a reason why this certain thought is trying to keep you safe. And when it comes to your ego trying to keep you safe, it doesn't necessarily mean that your ego is trying to look out for the best thing for you. Keeping you safe might just mean trying to keep you in a place that feels familiar to you and that feels safer for you and your ego. And I know that this journaling prompt doesn't seem that intuitive, so I'll share with you a personal example and how I followed it with some positive affirmations as well. So recently, one of my friends got a brand new job and I felt quite insecure because I was comparing my salary to her salary. And so when I asked myself, how is my ego trying to keep me safe, I figured out that my ego was trying to keep me safe by trying to prove to myself that I would have value if I was making more money, and I've thought to myself that it would make me earn their respect if I had a bigger salary than them. And so this brought to my attention how much I believe that salary also defines how much respect that I was deserving of, and because I know that logically that isn't true, I also followed it with some positive affirmations to kind of combat that belief. And so after that, I wrote down the affirmation that I'm deserving of love and respect no matter how much money I bring to the table. And so that's a little example of how this was able to help me get rid of my comparison, and it's still quite hard for me to get out of the comparison loop once I'm already thinking about it, but whenever I can take a step back and practice this journaling prompt, I find it so powerful, and I find that I stop comparing myself about that thing for the rest of the day. So it's definitely been something that has been really helpful for me, and I wanted to share that with you in case it would be helpful for you as well. Thank you so much for watching my November bullet journal setup. I'd love to know in the comments down below what you chose for your November theme in your bullet journal, and if you made it all the way to the very end, let me know in the comments with a notebook emoji as well, and I hope to see you in another one of my videos.